The illusion of stability every day. As I stepped outside and saw our house nestled among the pastel-colored homes of Riverton, I was struck by how perfectly it embodied the illusion we projected. The white shutters were always freshly painted and the yard, trimmed to perfection, was bursting with vibrant flowers. One of the best on the block, neighbors often said, their voices laced with admiration. I would nod, forcing a smile that felt like it wore heavy weights while a storm brewed underneath. Inside, however, the facade shattered into a million pieces, a glaring contradiction to how we lived. It is just money, my mother would say with a dismissive wave, but how could she so easily dismiss the suffocating grip it had on us? I could hear my brother's laughter echoing from his room as I tiptoed down the corridor. It sounded so carefree, but every guffaw felt like a knife to my gut. He was lounging, I knew, surrounded by more gadgets and gizmos than even a teenager could dream of. Each purchase seemed to wrap him tighter in a cocoon of debt while my own hard work felt invisible. I was just about to knock when I could hear my mother's voice floating softly up the stairs. Mason, no more new games. You need to focus on your studies this semester, she chided gently, but there was a hint of a smile in her tone. Just one more, look how cool the graphics are, everyone at school is talking about it. He replied, his voice overflowing with excitement as if his entire future hinged on that one game. It's just a game. What happens when they come to you and ask for the money? What do you care? You'll just throw more money at me, he countered, and laughter spilled from his room as if it were the last port in a storm. I pressed my palm against the wall, closing my eyes. It felt like my heart was shattering inside my chest. Did my family not realize that their support for his lavish lifestyle was a ticking time bomb? I swallowed hard, wrestling with the emotions rising within me. The truth was, I worked 3 jobs while my brother floated on a sea of borrowed cash, and all I felt was like a ghost moving through the house. A mere afterthought in my family, lost amid their frivolities. I remembered the different faces I wore, the friendly cashier, the diligent barista, the private tutor. Unknown to them was the spark of resentment igniting within me, blazing hotter every day. Mia, my mother called, yanking me from my internal storm. She sounded cheerful, which was sickening. Come help me set the table. We have a wonderful dinner planned tonight. Your aunt is visiting. Dinner was always a performance, one that sent shivers down my spine. The dining table sparkled, and I could smell the roast chicken simmering in the oven. The scent of herbs wafted through the air, wrapping around me like chains. Yeah, sure, I called out, forcing a cheery tone. I entered the kitchen, and there was my mother, dressed in a crisp blue dress tailored to hug her curves just right. She looked like someone you would see in a magazine, someone who appeared to have it all together, all while I felt like I was barely keeping my head above water. Mason, come on, dinner time. She shouted, lightness in her voice. I turned to the dining room, trying to ignore the gnawing cord of jealousy that tightened around my heart every time I saw her pampering him with financial injections instead of reprimands or lessons about responsibility. Can you set the extra plate, Mia? My mother asked, glancing at me with her bright eyes, seemingly oblivious to the resentment simmering underneath. As I moved to the cupboard to retrieve another set of silverware, my mind wandered back to my own struggles. I had sacrificed time and energy, scrubbing dishes and pouring coffee just to meet the monthly bills that kept piling higher and higher. Each job felt more draining than the last, stretching me thin, yet my family felt entitled to dismiss my sacrifices for my brother's indulgences. They moved through life unaware, blissfully ignorant of the debts that loomed over us. I closed my eyes for a moment, clenching my fists until my nails dug into my palms. Mia, are you even listening? My mother's voice pulled me back. Sorry, I was just thinking, I replied, forcing a smile, trying to slice through the leaden air around me. She waved her hand dismissively. You think too much, she said lightly, moving toward the dining room with a tray of steaming dishes. I followed, but the conversation felt stilted, as if we were actors in a play rehearsed so many times we forgot our true roles. What is everyone doing for the weekend? My mother asked as we sat at the table, but no sooner had the words left her mouth than my brother piped up with a plan to go out with his friends. We'll hit the game zone, then watch the game on Sunday. It will be legendary. He chomped on his chicken, oblivious to the tightening expressions around him. And you, Mia? My mother pressed, a smile still painted on her face. I could feel the weight of her expectations pressing down like a shadow looming over my very existence. Honestly, just catching up on work, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Busy as always. Busy with what? More tutor sessions? My brother snorted, his mouth full, grimacing at me with that slightly altered expression he liked to wear to show his disdain. I felt my face flush with indignation. People need help, Mason. Not everyone has it easy like you do, I shot back, unable to hold it in any longer. What are you talking about? He rolled his eyes, tossing his fork onto his plate with a clatter. You think you're so noble? I work hard for my stuff too, you know. Hard work doesn't equate to mindless spending. I seethed, taking a deep breath, willing myself to calm down. The undertones of our conversation felt like thick, suffocating smoke engulfing us. Mia, that is enough. My mother's voice pierced through the tension, her eyes momentarily narrowing as she glanced at us both. She placed her hand on Mason's back, soothing him in a way that I just could not grasp. Family dinners are a time for connection, not conflict. Can we not have one night? And there it was, the silence that enveloped the table, heavy as lead. It felt like my heart was breaking beneath the facade that we maintained. I could hear the ticking clock on the wall, each second stretching out painfully, reminding me of all the unspoken words I kept shoving down. The conversation shifted, and the hours drifted by under the glow of dimmed light fixtures and deep conversation. I watched my family exchange laughter and stories, and resentment rolled like a thundercloud in my mind. Their voices intertwined in sweet harmony, but to me it was nothing more than a cruel symphony, a reminder of how invisible I felt. As dessert was served, my mother's signature chocolate cake, I found myself sitting back, swallowing each bite with the bitterness of unspoken truth. I wondered, could they truly see me? Not just the one who helped hold everything together, but the girl who was drowning in their lavish lifestyle. My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me briefly from the gloom. Just a reminder of my night shift at the diner. I sighed, debating whether to slip away or stay. I chose to stay for now, wanting to savor this moment before it slipped into a weightless nothingness. I put on a smile, but it didn't reach my eyes as I stared into the untouched frosting of my slice. "I'll just grab a couple things from the kitchen," I announced, needing a short break from their carefree chatter. As I stood up, my mother's voice followed me. "Text me when you get to your shift, okay?" "Sure," I replied, and as I walked away, I could still sense their eyes on me, but it was my brother who drew my attention, smirking at me with a mixture of misunderstanding and awaited approval. In the kitchen, I leaned against the cool counter, taking a deep breath to steady my racing heart. Outside, the last rays of sunlight dipped behind the trees, wrapping the world in the velvet hues of dusk. I could feel the tears prickling the back of my eyes, but I blinked them away. I couldn't seem weak. Suddenly, anger ignited within me, a fire that demanded to be unleashed. The weight of betrayal from my family sat heavy on my chest, unrelenting, and I knew it was time for me to take control. I could no longer remain in the shadows of their cherished performances. I was tired of being overlooked, trapped in a role written by my family's neglect. It was almost painful to imagine plotting, to think of revenge like a dark stain spreading across the pristine tablecloth of our lives. Yet there was something exhilarating about the idea, something promising lay in that thought. The echoes of their laughter faded as I realized that all this time I had been the puppet, mastering my strings, but now I refused. Maybe the stage of our theater needed a rewrite. A moment where the overlooked finally stepped into the spotlight and claimed their own story. The day my world shifted was when I stumbled upon my mother's hidden stack of loan documents while cleaning out the family office. It wasn't just any ordinary day. The sunlight streamed through the dusty windows, casting golden beams onto the cluttered shelves stacked with boxes that seemed to hold forgotten memories of our family. As I sorted through the old books and half-empty bottles of ink, I felt a wave of nostalgia mixed with an overwhelming sense of duty. The office was supposed to be a sanctuary of creativity, a reflection of my mother's aspirations, but today it felt more like a crypt housing the secrets of our crumbling family. As I pushed aside some ancient accounting ledgers, my fingers encountered the unmistakable edges of paper, thick, official, ominous. Curiosity piqued, I pulled out the file. It was worn but neatly organized, revealing a series of loan agreements. My heart raced as I read the figures, the words blending together, but the numbers screamed at me. $50,000. My brow furrowed as I processed the implications. My mother had co-signed for my brother's loans. $50,000 for a boy who seemed to pour money out like water. "Mom, have you seen this?" I called out, my voice echoing slightly in the imposed quiet of the office. The paper crinkled in my shaking hands and a chill swept through my spine. I could already hear the excuses piling up in my head. She would say he needed it for school, for starting his life. But that wasn't the truth I knew. Every month, I watched our financial stability crumble as I witnessed him buy a new car, go on vacations, and throw extravagant parties, the reckless abandon of a man without concern. "Just a second, sweetheart." She called back, her voice cheerful and bright as if she had just finished baking cookies. I could hear her rummaging in the kitchen, the clattering of pans echoing an orchestra of innocence. I gritted my teeth, my heart pounding louder than the clatter as betrayal coursed through me. I pushed the file back into the old oak desk and stormed into the kitchen, the harsh scent of spices and simmering broth mixing with the bittersweet taste of anger on my tongue. My mother stood at the stove, stirring what looked like her famous vegetable soup. For a moment, I was engulfed by the comforting aroma, but the bitterness returning in waves thwarted any warmth. "Mom, we need to talk," I said, my tone sharper than I intended, the frustration bubbling under my skin like the soup boiling in the pot. She turned around, her brow knitting with mild surprise. "What is it, dear? Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" I snapped, gripping the edge of the counter as if it would keep me grounded. "You co-signed $50,000 in loans for him, and you didn't even think to tell me." My voice cracked, the anger rising with every word, the betrayal pulsing through my veins. Her eyes widened, and for a flicker I could see doubt clouding her features, but it vanished just as quickly. "Oh, Mia, it is not what you think. Your brother needed assistance getting started in life. It's not easy out there. Not easy." I echoed, incredulous. "You have no idea what it's like for me to work every single day just to keep this family afloat while he lives it up like he's a rock star, and you just keep enabling him. He's just going through a phase, honey," she replied, waving her hands dismissively as if she could brush away my concerns. "He needs that confidence to succeed." Confidence? The word tasted bitter in my mouth. How can you call this confidence when it is built on a mountain of debt? "You have no idea what you are doing to our family. Mia, you do not understand," she sighed deeply, her patience wearing thin. "I am supporting your brother. He has dreams, and I believe in him. Believing in him or coddling him, the weight of my emotions was heavy like a stone in my stomach. It looks an awful lot like favoritism to me." "Favoritism?" Her voice rose, and the kitchen felt charged with an energy that could ignite a fire. "You are being dramatic. He is my child too, and so am I." I shouted back, rage spilling out, the frustration like fire licking at my insides. I have spent years working my fingers to the bone while you pour money into his lifestyle. Your blind support is jeopardizing our entire family's future. Can't you see that? Mia, you're overreacting, she said, turning back to the soup, her voice trailing off in dismissal. I am not overreacting. You are sacrificing our stability for his whims. What happens when he can't pay it back? What happens to us? Enough. You need to calm down. I would never let anything happen to my family. I can handle this. Handle this? I echoed, venom dripping from my words. You're just ignoring the problem. You don't get it. Every month we are on the edge while he throws parties like he owns the world. I did not realize being the responsible one was a curse. I could see her demeanor changing, the corners of her mouth tightening. I was breathing hard, eyes wide with pent-up fury, and instead of any acknowledgement of my pain, she was acting like I had shattered her illusion of a perfect family life. Mia, you should be grateful for what I have done. It's not just about money. He needs my support. Support is not burying your child in debt. Support is making sure we do not lose everything. You are playing with fire, Mom. Can you not see it? I was shaking now, fists clenched at my sides, my breath coming in sharp gasps as turmoil surged beneath my skin. Why can't you just be happy for your brother? She nearly yelled, her voice trembling with fury. He deserves support because he is trying to better himself. Better himself? My voice cracked, dropping to a quieter tone laced with hurt. He is spending our future and you are standing by like it is just fine. Why can't you be proud of me? I am trying to make something of myself without throwing money around like confetti. You don't understand how hard it is to be his mother, she said, looking at me with an expression that flickered between anger and guilt. No, I don't understand because you never let me in. You hide everything in your little stacks of papers. She turned back to the stove, clearly done with the conversation, her body tense as she focused on stirring, trying to maintain some semblance of control while I unleashed the storm inside me. I could see the way her shoulders slumped as if admitting defeat. The room grew heavy, filled with the horrible silence that swelled between us, creaking like the floorboards underneath. It was as if all the warmth had been sucked out, leaving behind only the cold bitterness of reality. I cannot just sit by anymore, I whispered finally, the resolve hardening in my chest, a vow taking shape. This was more than just about loans or favoritism. This was about my future, my stability, and a chance to reclaim what felt so painfully taken from me. I will expose this. I will make everyone see what you're doing. You can no longer pretend everything's fine. She remained silent, stirring the soup, the steam rising like tendrils of anger swirling around us, words left unsaid hanging in the air like heavy stones. You think everything will be okay? You think he is just going to suddenly change? I will make sure people know what kind of family we are, I continued, my voice quaking but firm. The most important part of me felt like it was being forged in that moment. My identity, my anger, my vow to stop this insanity once and for all. The fire inside me raged, heated by the deceit that surrounded and consumed me, and as I walked away from the kitchen, I felt freed by my resolution. I would stand against the tide of favoritism and financial recklessness. My world had shifted, and with each step away from the kitchen, I moved toward something much more powerful than mere revenge. I was moving toward reclaiming my voice, and exposing their deception would be my first act of rebellion. The anger was no longer just a simmering rage, it was a fire, and with that fire I would light the way toward justice. The stakes were now set. I knew it was not just a fight for my own rights, but for the entire family's future. I was done being silent. The walls were filled with secrets, and it was time to start unraveling them. I would make them all see, to understand the cost of favoritism. I stood at that turning point, and from that moment all bet was off. The music pulsed through the air, vibrating the walls of the grand living room as laughter and chatter floated above it, a cacophony of joy that sickened me. I stood in the shadows, away from the sparkling lights and the crowd gathering around him, my brother, the star of the show. The extravagant decorations he had chosen, a mix of gold streamers and balloons that seemed to mock the reality of our situation, swung slightly in rhythm with the beat. I tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear, trying to focus despite the tide of overwhelming emotions crashing over me. I had dressed for the occasion in a simple black top and jeans, the unremarkable outfit allowing me to blend into his circle. No one here would notice the one person standing in the corner, silent like a phantom, while the energy in the room surged like electricity. Look at this beauty, he shouted, holding up a shiny set of car keys as if they were the Holy Grail. A half-circle of friends surrounded him, their faces alight with admiration. I could almost hear their adoration, the delight in their voices as they encouraged him to show off. What a ride, best birthday present ever. I could feel their envy, the instant thrill that a brand new car could evoke, unaware of the dark cloud hovering just above us. My brother's smile widened, showcasing his pearly white teeth, a veneer that had long since cracked under the weight of our family's accumulating debt. As he gestured wildly with the keys, laughter erupted around him. You have to take us for a spin. This is the best car you could ever dream of. One voice chimed in and another added, or should we take it to the beach tomorrow? Party on wheels. The excitement and applause only deepened my resolve, the collision between their frivolity and my consuming dread igniting something within me. I took a moment to survey the room. Such an elaborate display for his birthday, the expensive food laid out like a feast, the expensive decorations, the drinks flowing freely. Our parents had scraped together every last cent to make this happen, yet here I was, a few years older and carrying the burden of knowledge. Their trust in my brother had become a wicked joke. To them, he was still their golden child, their talented boy who could charm everyone around him. But I could see through the illusion like an open book, the debts and irresponsibility cloaked beneath the glimmering facade. What were they all thinking? Did they not see the risk we were facing, the burden they cheered for? A warm cocktail of anger and sorrow twisted in my stomach as I clenched my fists. This is just a game for him, isn't it? I thought to myself. A quick glance over my shoulder revealed my parents mingling. They were caught up in the thrill of the evening, smiling as they basked in their son's light. My mother was speaking with one of his friends, her laughter echoing like a melody, a stark contrast to the tight knot that had formed in my chest. Unable to contain the terrible sense of impending doom any longer, I took a step forward. The crowd seemed to revert to a distorted blur, the laughter fading as a single thought screamed in my mind. I had to wake them up. Hey, who wants to play a game? My brother interrupted my thoughts, his voice slicing through my musings. The room quieted, attention snapping back toward him. How about we take this party up a notch? Cheers erupted around him once more, the thrumming melody of excitement reverberating in my ears, but to me it sounded like a funeral dirge. What game? Someone shouted, and he grinned, an impish glint in his eye. It's a surprise. Just trust me on this, he replied, and the crowd shrieked with anticipation, oblivious to how reckless this all felt, how dangerous it was to lead them deeper into the rabbit hole of his extravagance. A brief flash of resolve crossed my mind. Maybe this was my moment. Perhaps if I could make them see the reality behind the mirage he had created, I could shake them from their reverie. But how? I felt anchored to the floor, my feet unwilling to move, fear battling with the urgency within me. A friend nudged me, her smile bright. Come on, don't be a wallflower, join us for the game. I forced out a smile, slipping momentarily from my cocoon. What game is it? Oh, you will see, she said, bouncing on her heels. The revelry around us surged, but a looming sense of foreboding crept back in. I swallowed thickly, rubbing my palms together nervously. As a group gathered in a circle in the large den, I found a space right at the edge, wedged between two boisterous friends who were both animatedly anticipating whatever my brother had concocted. They filled the space with their whispers, their excitement shimmering like fairy dust as they waited for him to reveal the mystery. Okay, okay, everyone listen up, he shouted, raising his hands. He loved these moments, these opportunities to be in the spotlight. Tonight we are playing Truth or Dare, but with a twist. Instead of just admitting secrets or embarrassing ourselves, there's a challenge involved for every truth you reveal. If you can't stick to your truth, you owe me. A wave of laughter washed over the group as they enthusiastically talked amongst themselves. Fine, what happens if I lose? One friend called out, giggling. You will have to help me with my next big purchase. We might even hit the dealership together, he boasted, oozing that arrogant charm that had fooled so many. My chest tightened as I realized each proclamation was another nail in our financial coffin. I shot my brother a look that I hoped was meaningful, a glance that demanded he see the stakes. All right, I will go first, someone squealed, jumping up and down. My brother nodded and they launched into the game, beginning with some harmless truths that barely scratched the surface. As the game progressed, I could feel the knot in my stomach tightening further, twisting painfully. Time flowed differently here, with each response sending a shockwave through me, clenching my heart tighter. Finally, the moment came when their silliness took a dark turn. I dare you to call your mom right now on speaker, someone shouted with a mischievous grin, egging on the next player. The room went silent momentarily, the weight of the challenge gouging through the merriment of the night. Fine, bet I can do it, he declared confidently, shooting the group a wicked smile. He picked up his phone, and an eagerness to hear my mother's voice turned my blood ice cold. Maybe this was it, the moment I had been waiting for. I could feel the edges of inspiration prickling at my consciousness, sparking with every second. Mom, he chirped when she answered. How's it going? Listening to him be so casual made my skin crawl. I watched the faces around him erupt with laughter, a storm of positivity that curled my insides. I just wanted to let you know I love you, he continued, and in that moment a part of me shattered. I took a half step closer, hoping against hope that something in those words would lead to a moment of clarity for his friends, for my parents even. I just turned 27 and my new car is the best thing ever. Everyone here thinks you're amazing too. Can't wait for you guys to see it. A creeping dread began weaving through me as I felt a piece of my heart crack open. His association of money with love was so toxic, it was poison coursing through our veins. That is when I finally snapped. Enough, I yelled, eyes locking onto my brother. The laughter halted as everyone turned to me with surprise mirrored in their eyes. I could feel my cheeks heat, anger flushing through my body. This is ridiculous, you all seriously cannot be this blind. His expression shifted from laughter to disbelief, a frown creasing his brow. What are you talking about? I'm just having fun. This isn't fun, it is not lighthearted. This game, this party, it's a distraction. You've put us all on a roller coaster of credit, the new car, the debts piling up like dirty laundry. I know you think you're being generous with this party, but do you even see the cost? Gasps filled the room, those boisterous cheers and lively anecdotes suffocated, succumbing to the weight of my words. I was breathing heavily, determination coursing through my veins. What do you mean, Mia? It's not like anything is wrong, he protested, brushing off my concerns, but his voice faltered slightly as uncertainty flickered like candlelight across his face. For a moment, it was as if he could glimpse the reality I had been trying to unveil. Are you kidding? This isn't just about you or us having fun, it's about our family. That car is a ticking time bomb. You're spending money like there is no tomorrow, and I can't sit idly by and watch while you drag everything down with you. The air grew thick and awkward, and I could see worry leaching from their faces, the mirage of happiness peeling back, revealing uncertainty and doubt. His friends were quiet, their excitement dissipating like mist. Everyone, don't listen to her, he snapped, but the tremble in his voice spoke of the truth beneath his bravado. She is my sister, she's just jealous. I work hard for what I have. Work hard? You mean work hard at partying? I shot back, my heart racing, my voice steady despite the whirlwind in my mind. You are recklessly plunging us all into chaos. People don't see it, ignore it as if it's a ghost, and I am here trying to make you understand before it's too late. Wow, calm down, it's just a birthday, one friend managed to murmur, awkwardly glancing around, but I didn't relent, not now. I cannot stand by and watch, wake up, I hissed, the words exploding from me like forgotten fireworks. I have been watching him throw ourselves into debt, and you all pretend everything is fine. You think these parties are love, but they are a charade. I could see his friends begin to shuffle, uncertainty etched deeply in their features, the party atmosphere collapsing around us like a fragile structure buckling under pressure. Silence fell over the room, thick and heavy, as my brother's laughter evaporated into the ether, leaving behind a cold chill that left us all feeling abandoned. I had crossed the line, but I had to for my family's sake. What trouble are you trying to stir? This is my night, he shouted, a flash of anger igniting in his eyes as he glared at me, the mask of confidence shattered. And every night you make it about you while dragging everyone into financial ruin. I can't sit here and watch you destroy everything. If you do not care about the consequences, then I will. No one asked you, this isn't your life to control. He retorted with venom, fingers gripping the phone like it was a lifeline. I took a deep breath, trying to stay grounded. But I care, we are family, you're not alone in this no matter how much you pretend you are. His frustration faltered a moment longer as I could see shadows flicker behind his eyes, doubt threatening to surface. I could sense some of his friends beginning to murmur amongst themselves, some shaking their heads as if trying to dismiss the truth I spoke. But I waited, letting the silence stretch, allowing their attention to swivel back to us. Maybe, just maybe, I had lit a spark that would finally ignite the darkness that had engulfed us. I arrived at the party with a carefully wrapped gift cradled in my arms, the colorful paper gleaming under the warm glow of the lights strung across the backyard. I could already hear the faint murmur of laughter and the clinking of glasses. It was a celebration, a gathering for my mother's birthday filled with familiar faces and familiar tension. The air smelled of barbecue and sweet summer, the tantalizing aroma wafted through the air as people mingled, coming together for the joy of the occasion. But in my mind, all I could think of was the careful plan I had laid out for this very moment, one that had taken weeks to execute. As I stepped through the patio door, I felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. It was now or never. I forced a smile, one I had practiced in the mirror countless times. It was all about the appearance of excitement, the way I would make him feel like this was a gift he truly wanted. Little did he know the contents of the box would speak louder than any of my theatrics. There he was, the centerpiece of the evening, with his confident demeanor and charming smile, surrounded by family and friends who adored him. I could see my mother standing next to him, her eyes sparkling with admiration as she watched her golden child bask in the attention. They were all enraptured, hanging on his every word, completely unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon. My heart raced as I approached, a slight tremor in my hands as I held the gift out toward him. "Happy birthday, Mom," I chimed, forcing a cheerfulness that felt foreign to me. I tilted my head, making sure my grin was wide and genuine. "And to you, the star of the show." He looked at me with an eyebrow raised, yet a grin teasing the corners of his mouth. "What's this, Mia? Are you bringing gifts now? You shouldn't have." The mock surprise in his voice churned something deep within me, but I stood my ground, reminding myself that this was all part of the plan. "Open it, I think you are really going to love this one," I urged, keeping my voice light. My stomach twisted with a mix of excitement and nerves, every fiber of my being ready to witness the fallout. He grasped the box, unaware of the ticking clock that marked the moment of revelation. The gift was perfectly wrapped, paper smoothed down just so, a pristine bow nestled on top, an enticing invitation to explore what lay beneath. I leaned in, my heart pounding, as he tore into the paper, ripping it apart with the gusto of a child unwrapping a long-awaited toy. The crumpling of the paper echoed in my mind, the sound a drum roll of anticipation. As the flaps fell open, revealing the neatly folded eviction notice, a collective hush settled over the crowd. I watched in earnest, every detail of his expression etched into my mind. Confusion washed over his face, a fleeting moment that I savored, as if time stretched while the world around us faded to silence. The laughter and music dulled, replaced by a profound stillness that resonated louder than the earlier festivities. "What is this?" he sputtered, disbelief animating his features. I could hardly contain my glee, knowing the truth of his reckless lifestyle was laid bare before the audience he had so carefully curated. "That," I began, my voice steady, "is a reminder of how you have lived your life without a care for the consequences. You think you're untouchable, but the reality is catching up with you." His confusion morphed into anger, his brows furrowing together as he processed the message I had carefully delivered. He glanced down at the paper, the words seeming to flicker like flames in his eyes as he turned them back to me. "You did this?" he asked, the venom dripping from his voice, each syllable sharpened like a dagger aimed straight for my heart. "Yes, I did," I replied, feeling a wave of satisfaction course through me. There was nothing left to hide, no more whispers in the shadows. I had finally turned the tables, and it felt as if I had exorcised the demons that had haunted me for too long. My mother rushed to his side, a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. "What is happening? Someone explain," she stammered, glancing back and forth between her son and me. My heart sank a little, but I refused to let her take the attention away from the gravity of the moment. "Mom," he snapped, his voice rising, "this is a joke, right? You cannot be serious." The anger in his voice echoed in the air, and I reveled in it. The way he was losing control, the master of ceremonies turned jester. The murmurs around us began to swell. A sound rolled from several mouths like wind rustling through dry leaves. I could see certain looks exchanged, disbelief, shock, and perhaps even some silent admiration from those who had known the truth all along. "This is unacceptable. You cannot just hand someone an eviction notice at a birthday party." "Why not?" I shot back, my voice ringing with a confidence that surprised even me. "Why is it unacceptable to face the consequences of your actions? Why is it unacceptable to expose your charade?" While my mother turns a blind eye. A knot of emotions clenched tight within me as I dug deeper, anger fueling my words. "You have enjoyed the sweet fruit of everyone else's hard work, never caring about how your decisions impacted anyone but yourself." "I have worked hard," he yelled, throwing the notice down like it was a poisonous snake. "All of this," he gestured vaguely at the gathering around us, "is because of me. You don't understand anything." The laughter I had been hearing moments earlier was now replaced with whispers. People leaned in close, their faces illuminated by the soft golden lights, their eyes darting between us. I could feel their breaths hitch in anticipation, a collective hunger for the next chapter of this unraveling drama. I stepped forward, the heat of the moment igniting something within me. "You have spent your life living under the illusion that you are infallible. You have manipulated people to keep them in your pocket, and you are so lost in your self-importance that you do not see the suffering you have caused." He took a step back, eyes wide, as if taken aback by the force of my words. I could tell he was struggling to maintain control of the narrative, grappling to reclaim his carefully polished image. "This is not how a family behaves," he spat, rage bubbling just beneath the surface. "But it is how a family should respond when one of its own has lost their way," I insisted, my voice steady now unyielding. "You have hurt us all for too long." There was something liberating in saying those words aloud, the long-dormant anger bubbling to the surface, erupting with every syllable. "So what? You plan to ruin my birthday? You plan to ruin everything for me." He was pacing now, his hands gesturing dramatically as his voice escalated. The betrayal in his eyes mirrored the pain I had felt all these years, and I realized that this was so much more than just a moment of drama. It was a flashpoint in a long-standing battle for recognition, for validation, for love. "I am not trying to ruin anything," I calmly replied, deliberately choosing my words as I steadied my breath. "This isn't just about a birthday. This is about setting the record straight." It was like static in the air, the tension thick as he continued to rally the crowd, looking for allies. "Can you all believe this? A birthday present to tear me down?" People shifted uncomfortably. I could see some of them nodding slowly, others whispering among themselves, and I braced myself for the fallout. "Is this really how you want to spend your life?" I pressed, aiming directly for the heart of the matter. "Living in a constant state of fear from someone exposing who you really are? Or do you want to take a look at that reality and rebuild?" "Rebuild?" He sneered, hands on hips, mock disbelief plastered across his face. "I have all I need. You are just a disappointment." And there it was, the barbed words he had always kept tucked away, instruments of his arrogance. The air around us felt electric, charged with emotions swirling like a storm ready to break. I uppercut him with my words, determined to shatter his entitlement. "Disappointment. You think the only thing you have done is disappoint me. It is not just about one person's disappointment. It is about the whole family, not just me. There are consequences, serious ones for all of us." I stood firm, unwavering even as the onlookers began to murmur insistently, some voices rising above the rest. "Mia, maybe you took this too far," some said compassionately, while others interjected. "What a terrible gift, how could you?" I could feel the weight of their judgment, but it mattered little now. My voice climbed above the chaos. "We all suffer from your addictions, your reckless habits. This was not about a gift, it was about confronting the issue we have all ignored for too long." His face contorted in rage, and my heart raced at the thought that perhaps, just perhaps, I was pushing him too far. With a sudden access of energy, he slammed the eviction notice down on the table, as if it were a final card in a game, something to be dismissed, but the people surrounding us leaned in closer, captivated and enraptured by the unraveling spectacle. "I cannot believe you would go this far," he bellowed, his face reddening. "You'll regret this decision, mark my words." I could feel a swell of emotion rising in my throat, but I swallowed it down. "No," I countered, forcing resolve into my voice. "For too long we have let you rule with fear. It ends tonight. You wanted attention, you got it, now face it." The finality in my tone reverberated through the air, echoing like a truth that had finally found its voice. He stepped back, sputtering under the weight of our audience, and for a fleeting moment the truth hung between us like the edge of a knife. The silence engulfed the room, and I could see his world fracturing, the smile that had once seemed so confident unraveling like discarded wrapping paper. In that moment I walked away, the chaos weaving behind me, knowing I had finally reclaimed my voice. The illusion of his dominion was shattered, the reality laid bare for all to witness, and it felt exhilarating. I had taken my stand against the favoritism he had enjoyed for so long. As I stepped away from the cacophony behind me, I felt lighter, free from the chains of expectation, finally knowing that my voice mattered too. The fallout was immediate. And as I stood there watching my brother sit in our overstuffed living room chair, staring blankly at the eviction notice pinned to the wall like some cruel piece of art, the weight of our family's choices pressed heavily on my chest. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the dust particles swirling in the air, and in that moment it felt as if the whole world hung in a tense silence, as if even time itself had decided to hold its breath. I could almost hear the faint ticking of the clock in the hallway, counting down the moments until everything would change for better or worse. My brother's eyes flickered to the rustling paper that signaled the end of a chapter for him, and I felt my heart swell, a mix of sadness and triumph bubbling within me. Who could I blame? Was it him, or was it our mother, the architect of favoritism that had led to this moment? Mia, he began, his voice heavy with disbelief. You didn't have to do this. I know you don't understand what it's like to be in my shoes. The accusation seethed beneath his words, but I had decided I could no longer wear the label of bystander. I could feel my pulse quickening, the heat building in my cheeks. You are right, I replied, carefully choosing my words as if they were delicate glass ready to shatter at the slightest provocation. I don't know what it's like to be the favorite son who gets a free pass while others in the family struggle. My mother stood in the kitchen, listening intently but not intervening, her hands gripping a dish towel like a lifeline. The air was thick with tension, and all I could think about was how she had chosen to ignore my struggles for so long. Each family gathering had turned into a stage where I became invisible, always fading into the background while my brother basked in the glow of her endless admiration. But now everything felt different. This is not my fault either, he shot back, defensively leaning forward in his chair, his elbows resting on his knees as if he were bracing himself against reality. I was just trying to do what I thought was right. What you thought was right, I echoed, letting the bitterness seep into my tone. You used everyone around you. You made choices that didn't just affect you, they affected all of us. I could feel the tension vibrating in the room, a tight wire stretched taut. Mom, don't you see that your blind support has consequences? You put him on a pedestal and left me to fend for myself. My voice cracked slightly and I took a deep breath, trying to keep it steady. Tears prickled at the corners of my eyes, but I couldn't afford to show my vulnerability now, not after everything I had fought against. What do you want me to say, Mia? My brother's voice softened but carried an edge like a sharpened knife. That I'm sorry. Sorry that I never thought things would turn out this way. He looked defeated, the confidence that had always accompanied him wilting under the weight of reality. I realized I didn't want an apology, I wanted accountability. Finally, he had to face the truth that his choices weren't always blameless and that maybe, just maybe, he hadn't been the perfect son he believed he was. I want you to take responsibility, I replied, feeling a rush of power like wind filling the sails of a long-neglected ship. I want you to realize that this is a lesson not just for you but for all of us. You've been coasting by while I've been fighting tooth and nail for my place within this family. There was a moment of silence where not even the ticking clock dared to intrude. I could see my mother processing everything, her sullen expression caught between disbelief and realization. Mia, she finally spoke, her voice carefully measured, I admit I may have overlooked some things. You both mean the world to me, but it is difficult to make decisions in a storm. Her admission was a flicker of light in the otherwise dim room, but I clung tightly to the spark, hoping it would lead her onward towards a different kind of understanding. A storm? I barked, my heart racing as I glanced over the eviction notice again. You call this a storm? This is chaos, and it's all because you chose to favor him over me. My voice echoed around the room, rebounding off the walls as if testing the strength of our family bond. Every meal, every holiday, you steeped him in praise while I was left standing in the shadows. A passion arose within me, igniting a fire I didn't know I possessed. I never meant to hurt you, she replied meekly, her hands twisting the dish towel tighter than before. I just wanted to support him, I thought he needed it. The room felt smaller, each word wrapping us all in a cocoon of emotions, so suffocating yet intimately connecting. Need? I scoffed, disbelief gnawing at my insides. Wanting to be praised isn't the same thing as needing support. There is a difference, and what about my needs? They obviously didn't matter at all. My brother watched us, his resentment morphing into a somber expression, and I could see him grappling with the fallout of our conversation. The other moments played back in my mind like a movie reel. Times I had been overlooked, quiet tears shed in the dark after family gatherings where I felt invisible. The birthdays that passed with little more than a fleeting acknowledgement, all while he received the spotlight. But here, under this roof, amidst the wreckage of our fraught family dynamics, I found my voice. I cannot wait for you both to realize what's been happening and sweep your feelings under the rug, thinking everything will go back to normal, I declared, my conviction ringing clear. This isn't just about any one event, it's about respect, family loyalty, and understanding each other. Mom, I need you to be the mother I deserve, not just to him, but to me too. My words hung in the air, heavy with significance. I could see the way they struck my brother, the light finally flickering in his eyes as if I had peeled back the layers of denial he had been wearing under our mother's guidance. Mia, he started slowly, the weight of my words apparently breaking through the barrier he had shielded himself with. I didn't know you felt that way. I thought you were okay with everything. I was never okay with it, I spoke, my heart accelerating as confusion creased my forehead. I felt like a ghost. You're my brother and I love you, but you cannot just sweep my feelings aside because Mom has always made it easier for you at my expense. My voice wavered slightly, the vulnerability creeping in, but I pushed through, forcing myself to stay resolute. I think, he said slowly, almost hesitantly, I may have taken too much for granted. I've been so caught up in my own issues. I could see his eyes soften, and something within him seemed to shift. It was almost as if the blinders were falling off, revealing the deeper connection we once had, buried under mountains of resentment and misunderstanding. Maybe it's time we all reevaluate what it is to be a family, I said, my heart lightening as the words escaped my lips. They felt right. We need to speak honestly with each other, to hold each other accountable. It's the only way we can heal from this. In that moment, I took a step forward, just a single step, but it felt monumental, as if I were breaking free from chains I hadn't realized were there, and I could see my brother turning toward me, a flicker of understanding igniting in his gaze. I don't know where to start, he admitted, his resolve fragile but present, like a fragile leaf in the wind. Start by acknowledging that I exist, I replied, every word filled with gravity. That I am not just a shadow lurking behind our family name, and Mom needs to work on that too. I gestured towards her, a mixture of defiance and determination coursing through me. I see you, Mia, she finally said, her voice warming with sincerity as she dropped the dish towel, letting it fall to the floor. I truly see you now. I will do better. The simple acknowledgement felt like a soothing balm on old wounds that had been festering for far too long. I will too, my brother added, the sincerity in his voice echoing with resolve. I'll learn to stand on my own 2 feet. I never wanted you to feel this way. As the conversation lingered in the air, a long-sought connection began to form between us. The power dynamic within the family started to shift, not abruptly but gradually, like the slow emergence of spring after a bitter winter. I felt lighter, as if releasing the burden I had been carrying all along. My act of revenge, if it could be called that, had catalyzed a moment of raw vulnerability and openness that had previously been hidden behind facades of bravado and denial. Our family gatherings would no longer be dominated by silence or sunken shoulders. They would be filled with laughter, shared memories, and conversations that were real and grounded in love. I stood there not just as a bystander anymore, but as a rightful member of this family. I had reclaimed my place among them. The negotiation of our relationships had only begun, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was truly seen. And maybe, just maybe, this appropriately painful unraveling could lead us all to a new beginning.